Here I'm going to show the process of changing the electrolyte solution in the membrane of the Q46 and Q45 dissolved ozone sensor. This sensor here is in a constant head flow cell, which is what we typically like to use for accurate dissolved ozone readings. There is a connector, electrical connector plug at the back of the sensor that you can quickly unplug. The sensor pulls out of the constant head flow cell. It's an O-ring seal, and now I have the sensor in my hand. Within this sensor, I have a little ring on top that I unscrew. There is a membrane here that I can take off and eliminate, and I can pour the electrolyte solution out of it. I take off this cap right here, and now I have the sensor and the cap. Next thing, I do have some membranes here. They come in a small little container here. In this container, you've got a piece of paper. The yellow is the piece of paper protector. Underneath that yellow protector, I have a membrane. They're very small, delicate, and clear. I'm going to take that and set it nicely inside of the ring, as you can see. Now I take the rest of the cap and I thread them together, and that just gets finger tight. And now I have the membrane, as you can see, pressed across the cap. I have a bottle of electrolyte solution here. I'm going to take this and pour this into the cap. And I'm going to fill it to about the bottom of the threads. There are threads there. I'm going to fill it to about the bottom of the threads. Now, set that down. I'm going to grab this sensor. I'm going to show you one other piece here. I've got to take this screw, this flathead screw, I have to take this out of the side. And I'm going to set that screw off to the side. And this is the important part. I have electrolyte solution in this cap, and I have the sensor right here. And I'm going to thread them together, as you can see. And what you're going to see is electrolyte solution pouring out of that hole. What I didn't say is I hold these at about a 45-degree angle, and I tighten it just to the point that the tip of that sensor is touching the membrane. Yep, there we go. And it's pushed out some of the electrolyte solution out the top of that hole. At this point, holding it still at about a 45-degree angle, I'm going to thread that little plastic screw back in. By no means does that need to be super tight. There's an O-ring seal on that. And I'm finished. I should, at the end, I should be able to feel the tip of that sensor just barely touching against that membrane at that point. I take my sensor and I can push it back into this O-ring seal right here. Just presses back in, and I can plug my electrical connector right in the back side again. Now, an important factor here is that the electrolyte solution does take a little while to warm up. It does take a couple of hours in some cases. So after I've done this, I don't calibrate the sensor. I don't try to change anything. I just run the sensor and allow it to get back to resetting itself to the proper dissolved ozone level before I try to calibrate the dissolved ozone sensor. If I try to calibrate it during its warm-up period, I'm just going to chase that calibration. And that's a frustrating point. One other point I'll make is there are some systems that I don't ever calibrate the dissolved ozone sensor. I simply replace the electrolyte solution in the membrane. When the calibration is off, and I know the calibration is wrong, I know that the electrolyte solution has become consumed. I replace the electrolyte solution, replace the membrane, put them back on the sensor, and calibration is restored. This is a lot easier way of ensuring the long-term calibration without changing the calibration. Not every system has that function or ability because of the precise levels of ozone or really high levels of ozone, but that is an option that you have. Hope this answers your questions. This is, again, regarding the dissolved ozone sensor for a Q46 and Q45 dissolved ozone sensor.